Some men do not have the patience to wait for years for their wife to die from the stress they've inflicted on them. So guess what they're doing? They're taking their wives to dangerous locations and they're leaving them there to die. They're taking them on hikes, they're taking them rock climbing, they're taking them out on lakes, and they're abandoning them, or they're letting them fall through a hole in a cave. That way the death does not look suspicious. The death is going to look accidental. One man went as far as taking out a life insurance policy on his wife 2 months before he pushed her off a cliff and called 911 and pretended that she fell. Luckily, investigators were able to connect the dots and realize that her death was not an accident. And this is so common that it's been given a term called Alpine Divorce. This is nothing new. The first time this term was coined was back in the 1800s because men have been taking their wives out into the woods and leaving them there to die. Men have been taking their wives on hikes, taking them out on lakes, taking them mountain climbing, rock climbing, bungee jumping, and in other dangerous locations, and secretly plotting to end those women's lives. They believe that if nature does the work for them, they won't be held liable. They can pretend to be the grieving husband or the grieving boyfriend. They can cash in on their life insurance policy and move on to the next supply. Because that's what many of them have done. They've abandoned their first partner in the woods, claimed her death was an accident, then got married to someone else. And now in 2026, this term is trending all over again. And it's just another reminder to women to remain vigilant. Because some of these dangerous men are walking among us.
I need y'all to stop getting on here and acting like black women having their own Alpine divorce stories is somehow what? Black women involved in Alpine divorces? How do you as a black woman let someone take you up on a hike and you can't get back on your own? That victim blaming mentality is also the reason as to why when black women go missing, nobody gives a damn for real, because the shit y'all do on Threads for real. It's all connected, do you see? But also let's talk about the fact that y'all don't pay attention, or you pick and choose when you want to pay attention to the murder rate that is for black women, right? That out of every group of women, we are murdered more than anybody. And depending on where you are geographically, that statistic can go up significantly. Like if you live in Wisconsin, it shoots up to about 20 times more likely to being murdered. Because let's use the appropriate terms. Let's stop using cutesy words. Murdered. Right? And also, let's be clear that black women have their own Alpine divorce stories, but they're just not called Alpine. They're called, he took me to a restaurant that was 30, 40 miles away from my location. And then we left the restaurant, and then he proceeded to become sexually aggressive with me, and then demanded some sort of sexual compensation for the $30, $40, $50 meal that he just paid for. And because I refused said interaction, he has now left me on the side of the road. Right? And now I have to sit and call my friends and figure out how to get home, call my family, see if I have enough money for an Uber. Right? Now let's take those stories back to when there wasn't the access to technology that we have today, where your aunts, your mothers, your grandmothers went out with young men who drove them someplace and then proceeded to ask for something in return for a little bit of strange. And your grandmother said no. They said, well, okay, get out and walk. We're about 40 miles from where I picked you up at. Go ahead and walk, since you're not doing nothing for a walk. Right? Black men, I've heard stories of black men leaving their wives at various different events because they were mad at them. And y'all want to sit here with a straight face and tell me that, like, and pretend to be shocked that there are black women who have stories about going on hiking and being abandoned? Of course they would, because black women are the most targeted group of women when it comes to murder, right? Y'all are talking about this is a white man's activity, yeah, which also would make black women more susceptible to it, right? Because I do think there is a racial aspect to it. I do think that everyone is aware. They're all aware of the statistics that, even if they're not necessarily aware of the statistics, they understand that the world does not care about black women. And I do think that there are men that use that to their advantage. So that's why they go after them, because they know that. And honestly, there have been cases where men went out on dates with black women, and then the first date was the last date because he murdered her, and he got away with it for a long, long time. I cannot remember his name, but his face is popping up to me. I think he was like bald, but like he got away with it for a long, long time until enough of a stink was raised. And even then, I don't even remember what happened in that case. I don't even think he really was arrested or anything like that. But like, they bet on that fact that don't nobody give a damn about what happens to black women. So I can kill one, and they're gonna try to blame her. They're gonna call her a junkie. They're gonna call her mentally ill. They're gonna say that, you know, she just ran away, stuff like that. She was irresponsible. They're never gonna blame me. And y'all get on this internet and you basically hand them more reasonings as to why black women won't be taken seriously. Because you're reinforcing anti-black stereotypes, talking about black women have Alpine divorce stories. What are you doing? What are you doing? You don't feel a little weird? You don't feel the L being etched on your forehead when you type stuff like that? Not all? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that this Alpine divorce situation should be opening y'all eyes to the various different ways in which men will attempt to murder you. So, as always, women and black women, keep your head on a swivel, unfortunately, and start. I can't do it. That's exactly what I need.
I just found out about this thing called Alpine Divorce. I just found out about this thing, and I realized I have experienced it and lived through it. So let's sit down, let's talk about my Alpine Divorce. For those of you who don't know what Alpine Divorce is, it is a phenomenon where women are left alone while hiking with a man. There's maybe more into it. I literally just ran across it. I'm going to set the scene because I feel so good knowing that I'm not alone in this experience. It's 5 years ago. Someone I met online, a guy that I really liked, asked if I wanted to move him from Idaho to Southern California. I said, yes, that sounds so fun. We're going to do a road trip all the way to Washington down. And I still think I saw such beautiful things on this trip. But there's a kicker. He needed me to drive his stick shift truck across while he drove in a separate car, and I followed him. Okay. Now, I know how to drive stick shift. But I live in a very flat place, and I've driven stick shift maybe a handful of times, but I felt confident enough that maybe I could refresh my skills and do it. There were multiple times on this trip that I did stall out, especially on hills in San Francisco. That was crazy. Where I experienced my Alpine Divorce was in a 10-day trip or something, maybe less. It could have been 7 days or something. On this trip, about past halfway through it, we go to see the Redwood. I think it's a national park. Redwood's national park, right? And I'm driving behind him, and all of a sudden, I've lost him. And I'm in a car that I don't really know how to drive that well. And I'm like, where is he? No big deal. I'll call him, right? No signal. I drive around Redwoods for 35, 45 minutes by myself. I'm freaking out. I'm thinking, okay, maybe we've just lost each other, whatever. I finally get out to the highway, out of the park and get onto a highway, get some cell service, and no text, no call from him, nothing. No, hey, where are you? I could have drove off with this man's car. Nonetheless, I call, because I was very naive at this time of my life, and very young. I call. I'm like, hey, we must have lost each other. Like, where are you? And he's like, oh, I'm here. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, where's that? It's on the opposite end of the park. So we have to drive up, meet each other, no cell service, nothing. I think I actually had to meet him somewhere, or I got off on the highway. He was like 4 miles, exits down. It was a whole fucking thing. I'm across the country meeting a stranger, and you abandoned me. Turns out he was driving different routes through the park so he could take pictures of his truck. I like to take pictures. Here's the picture I took at Redwoods, actually. If I can crop it in. I don't know. I may not be able to. But yeah, we eventually met back up. No surprise that this did not end up well when I got back to my original state, like ghosted. Not me, like he ghosted me. I was also very young, okay, keep that in mind. But he ghosted me. We did not speak again. It was a very bad ending. And there were multiple times throughout the trip that he would just leave me somewhere. Just fucking leave me. And we're seeing like all these beautiful places and everything. I'm like, well, I guess I'll just sit down and enjoy it by myself. I did not realize there is a name for this term, and it is like literally abuse. I did not know this. I thought this was a unique experience. I'm like kind of sad, but also like so relieved to know that I'm not alone in this. Like, this is insane.
Women on the internet are sharing their stories of Alpine divorce, which is basically when you go on a hike with someone, usually a man, and they leave you there stranded or try to leave you there stranded. And I have a story about that. Back in 2022, I briefly was casually dating a doctor, and he asked if I wanted to go on a hike. And I was like, sure, but only if we get a hamburger after, because I love hamburgers. And so we started the hike, and he was joking with me about how if I eat hamburgers, I'm going to get so fat. And then he started talking about his mom, who had worked cleaning houses her whole life and put him through medical school, was getting fat. And he was like ranting about it and how his mom would like hang up on him if he talked to her about how she was getting too fat. And I interjected and I was like, shouldn't she get to decide what she eats? She's worked so hard her whole life. And he got furious at me. He started storming ahead on the trail, ranting about how Americans are too fat and women are too fat. And at that time, a jogger had passed us, and that jogger heard this man ranting, backtracked, came to me, and kind of mouthed, and I was like, yes, but that was also my signal to leave. And there was like a shortcut off the trail to the parking lot, and I just started walking on it. And the doctor chased after me. He was like, where are you going? Where are you going? And I said, to go get a hamburger. And I did. So the happy ending is the girl got her hamburger and left the man.
Alpine divorces are trending right now. Apparently, the trend around this term started when creator Ever After Aya posted a video to TikTok. Here it is. In it, she writes, "You go on a hike with him in the mountains, but he leaves you alone by yourself and you realize he never liked you to begin with." Basically, an alpine divorce is when a woman is abandoned out in the wilderness, either hiking or walking with a man, be it a date or a significant other. Crazy, right? What's even crazier is that so many other women are coming forward and saying this also has happened to them. In this one Reddit post, a person wrote, "I used to go on a lot of hiking dates and this would constantly happen to me. I've decided now that if a man does this to me again, I'm simply going to turn around and leave without saying a word." And a man was recently convicted of manslaughter after he abandoned his girlfriend on a mountain and she ended up dying of hypothermia. It was revealed in this case that he had done this to another woman, but she survived. Many of the women talking about this online say that it happens almost gradually, like the man just starts walking faster. And a lot of times it comes with an excuse of, "I want to get to the top of the mountain faster," or "I want to move faster than you're able to move." So I have to ask, has this happened to you or anyone you know?
What the fuck do you mean it's common for husbands to take their wife or girlfriend on a freaking hike and leave them there? What do you mean that's common? Every day there is a reason why I shouldn't be scared of men. It's called Alpine Divorce or Alpine Divorce, something like that. Point is, it's a name for it. This is a common thing. They have a whole woman support group and everything. What is this? What is going on?